good answer, just a stalling tactic. It's interesting to see AJ with a deck other than Eternal Storm.
Yeah, that's his baby.
Yep. I think that he may have decided he's just got other stuff to play with now.
I think he's wanted to play this deck. He was begging me for a deck tech, so hopefully we can oblige and give him one.
It definitely is one of those decks where it's been slowly getting a little bit more each time. Illusionary Mask came back, Torpor Orb came out, and so, you know, the version of it that a lot of people know, the Stifle Knot deck, that's not actually here. He's got no Stifles in this deck. And so instead what he's gone with is more of a disruption kind of junk build that works in the Dreadnought, the Hunted Horror, and the Torpor Orb and Illusionary Mask, and forgoes Stifle completely.
I mean, he just makes gigantic monsters and casts discard spells.
Just like any 13-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Little more advanced.
I think he's a little more advanced than the average one. I love watching him shuffle because the cards are as big as his hands are. So he actually has to like physically like lift up half the deck like a thing. It's not like a... I really just have no idea how to win that game.
Is all set. I didn't see a whole lot of sideboarding here against the Landstill deck. I suppose the Python Needles could come in. That can definitely shut off the Mishra's Factories. That definitely can be a huge point there. But Perish isn't going to do much. Take out as many Tarmogoyfs on his side as on the other side. Mental Misstep, I don't see. There's not much other than Ponder and Brainstorm that he'd be shutting out. Yep, I mean he could fight back against the Mental Missteps, but I don't think Dreadnought's being played face up all that much. Sometimes probably with Torpor Orb in play, but since that Thoughtseize.
Josh has Submerge, which is going to be great here.
That is going to be very good.
Yeah. Of course, to be honest, AJ has to play a Forest for Submerge to be good.
I was going to say there's
and
3
AJ
Bayous.
Knows about Submerge.
He's heard about it. It's a techie card.
Yeah, he's...
the only thing he needs those
Bug decks
forests
always
for,
have it, so he's going to know that.
Yep, the only thing he needs those forests for are the Tarmogoyfs. And so he may just hold that back until he needs it. You may see some Verdant Catacombs going and getting basic swamps, and if Josh is holding Submerges, much to his chagrin. Now, out of Josh's board, we've got a couple of Dismembers and Snuff-Outs. Those Dismembers, they don't do much when the creatures are this big.
They really don't.
But the Snuff-Outs, I think, probably come in just because you want a way to knock out something that's 12-12. Submerges, as you mentioned, come in. Do you think that he's bringing in those Thoughtseizes? Wants to get in, pull apart some of the pieces?
Probably, especially on the play.
Okay. So we've got a comment from Twitter. Prolepsis9 says, AJ can't use Mass to cast Hunted Horror without black. 2 is not good enough. And we're double checking because apparently what we're going to do this entire match is just look at the Oracle text of
So as a refresher for those just joining us, I'm Jacob Van Lunen, and I'm sitting here with head judge Jared Silva, and we're terrified by a card called Illusionary Mask. For those of you that are unaware about Illusionary Mask, here's what it does. It costs 2 colorless mana. It's an artifact. Let me read you its Oracle text. X: You may choose a creature card in your hand whose mana cost could be paid from some amount, or all of the mana you spent on X. If you do, you may cast that card face down as a 2/2 creature spell without paying its mana cost. If the creature that spell becomes as it resolves has not been turned face up and would assign or deal damage, be dealt damage, or become tapped, instead it's turned face up and assigns or deals damage, is dealt damage, or becomes tapped. Activate this ability only time you can cast a sorcery.
And the activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery refers to the X ability. The last part right there where they're talking about if it would be dealt damage, if it deals damage, means that that's a replacement effect. Basically, as soon as something else is going to interact with the creature, it's going to turn face up and say, okay, here's what I am. I give up. And so the response at Savage Puck says, I thought I saw an Urborg in play on AJ's side, which explains why he was able to tap the Rishadan Port in order to play the Hunted Horror face down. Looks like we're going to be playing some short Magic for this round. We've got mulligans to 5 on both sides. Let's see how these are going to turn out.
AJ could just have turn 1 Ritual Torpor Dreadnought.
I suppose that's possible.
It's possible.
He'd need a land. Probably one that makes black. Looks like we're playing with 5. Island from Josh leads us off. There's a Bayou, so he's not holding those forests back. And a Brainstorm from Josh will dig him out of this mulligan a little bit.
It's always scary to one land Brainstorm when you're on so few cards, because if you Brainstorm into no lands, you know you're just cold.
Yep.
You know your fate.
Putting, I believe it was Underground Sea and Polluted Delta back on top, possibly in the other order.
Notice that Josh puts both lands back on the top of his library.
Now he's trying to figure out how he wants to play this.
I would put both lands on the top of my library.
If he's going to put a land on the top of the library, right now it looks like he's putting that Underground Sea underneath. Here comes a Polluted Delta. If he plays this and cracks it, that Underground Sea is going away, and he may be stuck at 2 lands.
Yeah. I also like putting lands on top, because if you put the lands on top, then you make it so that if you get himmed, you're not as likely to lose like the very important lands when you're on a mulligan of 5.
Yep. There's a reason for a forest. Tarmogoyf from AJ. Josh decided that he was going to keep that Polluted Delta rather than going to get a Tropical Island or Dismember. Takes out the Tarmogoyf.
Puts Josh down to 16.
Okay. So he'll pick up that Underground Sea, and at this point I would expect to see him cracking to go get some green mana for the Tarmogoyfs in his hand. Looks like he's got 2 of them.
That makes sense.
Can you identify that third card?
I believe it's a Brainstorm?
Yep. Looks like a Brainstorm out, one of the Ice Age Brainstorms. That is a bright island right there in the middle.
It is.
Underground Sea for Brainstorm. Lets him look at the top, decide whether or not he wants to fetch.
Yeah. If he finds cards that he likes, he may neglect to fetch right here because he doesn't want to.
Another Brainstorm, which he can just keep. He's got another fetch there, and he looks like he's throwing back. Is that Factory? And he was looking to throw back Factory Goyf.
That seems.
Goyf is not that impressive right now. 2/3 at the moment.
Yes, only a 2/3 at the moment.
Obviously going to get bigger. And at this point, we'll be shuffling those away. Yep.
3/4 for 2 mana. Still pretty good.
Yep. There's the Tropical Island. And we should expect that we're going to see a Tarmogoyf on Josh's side of the board.
So, interesting note with the camera, it seems like AJ's hat is actually magical and that it changes colors.
Is that the special hat that Jerry was wearing earlier this weekend?
I don't know.
Yes it is. That was the hat that he was wearing, and no one could recognize him because Jerry doesn't wear hats. And so no one knew that it was him. He was seated with his back to everybody else with a hat on, and no one could find Jerry Thompson. All right, so AJ plays a Verdant Catacombs and is about time to get started up. Torpor Orb.
Yeah, and
means he's
Josh
gonna be,
has no answers.
Means he's going to be ready to start dropping stuff face up.
Yeah.
Factory off the top.
It's not too bad. It's going to make a second Tarmogoyf for Josh here.
Yep. After the first one gets in for 3.
3.
3. Yep.
So another 3/4.
And passes back over. Now Josh has no defense right now. He's got, I believe, a Brainstorm, which he's about to use to see if he can find something to do about that Tarmogoyf. And Tarmogoyf land.
Well, now AJ knows he has no action too. So if AJ's cards are, if he has a Dreadnought in hand.
Empty hand. Gets to keep one of these here. So that's Factory back, and couldn't tell what that last card that he got to keep was.
He's just gonna
fetch for AJ.
Go down to 16.
Drops
here.
him down to 16.
And let's see. So he's just gonna find a basic forest. Or basic swamp, rather.
I was going to say, at this point, he's got to buy you out, gets another one just to have as much flexibility as possible.
That's fine. I just,
I don't think he's
double wastelanded randomly. Oh, his opponent doesn't really have that many wastelands. I don't know.
He's got the 4. Josh has the 4 wastelands. We just haven't seen them.
It's a very good card, Wasteland. I recommend playing 4 of them in Bug.
So, yeah. Allows you pretty good fight in the mirror as well.
I imagine AJ is going to get quite a few of those.
Is that time?
For draft number 3 is Zach Frazier and Andy Haverville. Please come to the devastation.
So you're going to hear time called in about 2 minutes here, but AJ and Josh actually have 2 additional minutes for a rules call, which involved Illusionary Mask. Surprise, surprise. Looks like AJ's got a whole bunch of ways to cast all of his huge guys without having to deal with any of the drawbacks. However, he doesn't have any huge guys in his hand, as that Thoughtseize took an Illusionary Mask, leaving AJ with just a Torpor Orb in his hand.
And now the top of AJ's library is very live, though. Ooh, another Tarmogoyf. And Josh may win this game fast enough to make this match a draw.
If I remember correctly, Josh shuffled away a Tarmogoyf too.
No, he ended up keeping it.
He held on to?
Yeah. But,
so AJ...
Now they're 5 6s, so AJ's going to drop a 6.
We got Sorcery, Instant, Land, and there's another
Artifact.
Factory. Yeah, at that point, AJ says, let's just get to game 3, see if we can do anything about this.
All right, so I think they're not going to have many turns.
No sideboarding this time. Looks like both people are shuffling up, trying to get to that game 3.
Matthew Minnesota. Please come to the devastation. Matthew Minnesota. Please come to the devastation.
Jacob's going to step out, letting Joey back in. As we're shuffling up for game 3 here between AJ Kerrigan and Josh Rhodes. I'm Jared Silva.
I'm Joey Pasco, finally back in the booth. Gosh, Jared, you take forever. I thought you were just coming in to explain Illusionary Mask. I guess you still are explaining Illusionary
I was going to say, I'll be done sometime
Not
tomorrow.
Done yet, yeah.
So we've got AJ Kerrigan playing a Torpor Orb, Illusionary Mask, Dreadnought deck. And he's playing against Josh Rhodes, who's playing Bugland still.
Yeah, really kind of interesting interactions here with AJ's deck, and I think I think the guys were saying earlier in between game 1 and 2, I think playing against a deck like this is kind of strange for Josh, I guess, not really exactly knowing what to expect, but I think now after seeing 2 games worth of AJ's deck, he probably has a pretty good grasp of how things are at least supposed to go. Now, whether or not that he can get through a game without having to deal with more weird rules interactions with Illusionary Mask.
Got a whole bunch of elimination coming in, a whole bunch of long game cards coming out. and looks like we are getting ready for a short game from both players.
So have you guys just assigned a judge to follow AJ Kerrigan around for the rest of the day? I mean,
no, but maybe we have to.
Yeah.
Not really, because AJ doesn't know what's happening, but I don't know that he's going to sit across from a whole bunch of people who are able to follow everything.
You almost have to assume that his opponents are all that he's going to call a judge, so they're going to play out 5 turns, sounds like. So that's something. Try to make it not a draw.
All right, so we are going into... They shouldn't play the last game if time has been called.
Okay, we're gonna confirm.
So we're verifying with the judge that if time has been called, they would not be starting a third game. So we're unsure of exactly what the extension situation is. Verifying that right now.
Yeah, Illusionary Mask is a very complex, kind of deep card, really.
Now that may be the card with the most rulings on it.
Yeah.
In Gatherer.
What was it? 20 something, I think.
It's certainly well into the teens. Most of them are from, I believe it was Masters Edition 3 that it showed up online.
So what's the deal then? Okay, maybe it looks like they may not be playing then. Yeah. So is that a draw
right.
then? Is that what's happening?
That is a pretty spectacular hat from AJ.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have a draw as we are unable to get to game number 3. Well fought out. AJ fought back in game 1, pulled out a game that probably should have been out of, was able to play tight, bait Josh into countering a Torpor Orb, when if Josh had held back and held that spell for one of the creatures that was going to follow up.
Yeah, one of the actual threats.
He may have been able to pull that game out, but it was pretty close. It was pretty tight. Josh was trying to push through the last damage. AJ finished that game, won it at 1 life. Definitely some very, very strong play from the 13-year-old.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Josh really, he was trying so hard to push that last few points of damage in. He broke his own standstill.
Yep.
And that actually
may have given
maybe
AJ.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that may have given AJ the ammunition he needed
exactly
to get back in.
Say, yeah. So we're back here in the booth. I'm Joey Pasco.
I'm Jared Silva.
And we're here in Baltimore for the Star City Games Open Series, the Legacy Open today on Sunday, as always. How many rounds today?
We have 9 rounds today. We've
9
got
rounds.
318 players.
What's the biggest Legacy Open we've had? Like how